Welcome everybody to our second Trail Tribe webinar. It is Friday, May 29th, and we've got special guests today, Nancy Hobbs from the American Trail Runners Association. We've got Mike Bone from Run Catalina and the Run Catalina Half Marathon. And then we got Sean Lake from our partners over at Bubs Naturals Protein. We're gonna be talking fully today about trail tips, what to look for on the trails, how to train for it, how collagen is really good as far as your training and recovery. And then Mike's going to fill us in on some of the Run Catalina events and if nobody's been out there before, what they can expect when you go out to run at Catalina, or even as a participant, what to know leading into the race. So I'm going to jump right into it. Nancy, could you give all of our listeners kind of a background of what the American Trail Runner Association is, what you guys do, how you connect different races across the country, and how runners as an individual can be a part of the ATRA?
Yeah, so hi, welcome everybody. Interestingly enough, so I had this very conversation with somebody in North Carolina today. And we were founded in 1996. At the time, there was no other association that was geared to trail runners. There was the National Hiking Association, there were other running groups, but nothing specific to trails. So we've morphed from then to being a little larger organization. And we basically have three pillars. We have information for runners, we've got information for race directors, and then with brands and how all those interrelate. And every year we have a different theme, and this year we have a theme of climate action. But we also have a lot of resources for runners getting started. We have a trail news section on our website, and we have a lot of different programs. We do trail towns, we feature towns across the country and why somebody would want to go and do trail running there. We have a calendar of events that's searchable, and there's over 8,000 events listed there around the US and around the globe. So those are just a few things that we have. And we have a lot of different membership levels from individual, and then of course I mentioned the brands.
Wow, so people can go on and become a member of American Trail Runners Association, even though you're not a race director like myself.
Correct. So we have an individual membership. A supporting level is $20 a year. And you get we have a quarterly newsletter, and we have e-newsletters that go out. We also do random drawings. We've given away about $14,000 worth of runner race registrations and subscriptions. And then at the $35 level, you get Trail Runner magazine thrown in. And at any level, you get 20% off or 25% off actually of Ultra Running magazine. And then these giveaways are great. We just finished one doing a coaching contest. Somebody that wanted a 90-day coaching package. So there's a lot of stuff of value, and it's really good. But our website is meant to be free access to articles and information. We have resources for coaches and camps, event standards, and myriad other useful resources for people.
Wow, which is great. And I'm glad you mentioned the tips, because we have, I mean, a lot of the people that listen in on this, and a lot of the people that we work with or see at our races are anywhere from that new trail runner to the middle of the road. They're just gotten into it, right? And we see fewer of the elite athletes. So we do have a lot of newbies coming in. So I want to talk trail tips with you. What are some of the things that, as a new trail runner, what would be the top three things that you would look for as far as getting out and starting to run on a trail?
Yeah, so the other thing that's really interesting about this, these are good tips to revisit even if you have been on the trails. So like the number one thing is to think distance, think time, not distance. So if you're going to go out and run, say, I'm going to go out and run for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, whatever that time frame is, but don't put a pace per mile in your mind, because trails have have the ability to make you go a little bit slower because there's obstacles and things that you might run into, and also elevation changes. So that's a really key thing, and really kind of throw that pace per mile out the window, because you might run 1 mile at 8 minutes, you might run another one in 20 minutes and think, boy, I was really moving on, but I wasn't getting very far. So you have to kind of take a mind shift and think a little bit more about what the surroundings are. And the biggest thing is to stop and enjoy the views. So if you're out running, you've got to watch where your feet are planted, and you'll eventually get that proprioception that helps you kind of guide your footwork where it's going to land. But in the interim, you really need to stop and look at the views and be aware of what's around you. I mean, I fall periodically now too, because sometimes I'm like, oh wow, look at that, boom, you know, you're down on the ground, and it happens to everybody. The other thing that's really helpful is to go with a mentor, somebody that knows trails, and give you a couple tips as you're going along. And it's not a big deal to ask people for advice, because you want somebody that gets engaged and wants to be on the trails more than just one time.
Wow. So from a road perspective versus trail perspective, right? We end up seeing a lot more females at our races during the trail, because it's a lot, you know, you want to go out there and run with a friend. As a female trail runner getting into it, explain the importance of having that running buddy, or having somebody with you just to be safe. I mean, yeah, and that goes for males too, but we see, like I said, we see a lot more females at our races, and I try, and more I'm talking to them about getting out and being out on the trails, and the safety of it as that pertains to them.
Yeah, and sadly for women, it's something that, I mean, we not only can worry about some of the animals that are out there, but also getting overtaken by somebody that is there for means other than to say hello and support us, right? So I think the safety issue is something that, you know, you certainly have to think about, and the awareness. You know, don't be wearing earbuds when you're out on the trail, especially if you're running by yourself. You don't hear anybody behind you. You don't know what's going on around at all. And if somebody approaches you, you have no idea there's somebody coming along. And it's a good idea to run with somebody, somebody else, or if you have a dog to run with, on a leash, or go to some place, vary your routine. Like, don't do the same 5K loop every day.
Mm-hmm.
And don't run in, at night unless you're running with somebody, or have some headlamp, and the main thing is to be with somebody else. I think that's really important. But at the same time, I don't always take my own advice. I run by myself, like, all the time. But I'm also very aware, and I go to places that I'm familiar with, and that doesn't mean that I couldn't get into some issues. And fortunately, I haven't gotten into too many odd situations, but it can happen. So that awareness is really key. I do have a lot of friends that run with like a little, you can get them at Amazon for like $20. They're like a little taser thing that you can have. It's, hold it in your hand. And those really kind of scare you and frighten you. And those are good for animals too. So I think that awareness is key.
So even from an awareness perspective, I'm new to a different area, and right. I'm getting on a new trail, right? Are there things that you would recommend as far as being aware to the trail surroundings, or even just jumping onto that trail? What would be the things that you would look at as getting onto a trail that you're not even used to before?
Well, one of the key things is to know where you are. I carry a cell phone with me most all the time. And if it's an unfamiliar area, and I just got done a couple of years ago doing a series of books, where to books, San Francisco, Seattle, the Front Range of Colorado, and Portland, Oregon. And during this time of doing these books, I went to trails, a lot of places I'd never been before. So I do a little research in advance about what the trail conditions were going to be. You know, sometimes they're closed, right? If there's a lot of rain or something, a trail could be closed. So, you know, orient yourself with where the trail is, where it's going. Take a picture of a map of the trail. Make sure your phone is charged as you're going out, because you don't want to get a low battery. And I suggest not going as far as you like. Don't go out for like, oh, I'm going to go out for 4 hours on this trail. You know, be prepared if you're going to do that, but know where you're going. I've gotten lost more times than I can tell you. And oftentimes I'll refer back, I'll look at my phone, I'll go, oh, you know, there's the connector name of the trail, and this is where I need to go. So I always take a picture of the sign. Usually there's an interpretive sign that shows you the trail map, and that's really, really helpful. But in advance, if you knew, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go to XYZ Park, you know, you could take a picture of the map that's on your computer and take that with you. And then you can pull it up and look. But you have to have some map reading skills.
Oh, always good.
Yeah.
Sometimes Siri can't tell you where you're at in the middle of the woods, you know.
Yeah, but that's a key thing. And also, you know, let somebody know where you're going. You hear about accidents when, you know, people are missing. Oh, they didn't come home. You know, where are they? You know, let somebody know where you're going if it's an unfamiliar area. I think that's really important as well.
We have a question from Tara. It asks, she's fairly new to trail running. She's done a few races. What are your thoughts on running with snake gaiters? Some of these single tracks or cliff type trails. If I ran into a rattlesnake, yeah, it could be quite dangerous. What are your thoughts?
So I have run into some rattlesnakes. One I almost stepped on a couple years ago in California. I was out on the trails. I didn't even see it because it looked like a pile of poop because of the coloring, and it was all coiled up. And I was like, oh, and a friend of mine saw it and said, there's a snake. And of course I did the psycho scream and totally freaked out. And, you know, I've never worn any kind of gaiters, snake gaiters, but I wouldn't also go out and go along a trail or off trail that has a lot of undergrowth, because a snake could hide in that undergrowth. I mean, they don't want to get close to you. They don't want to, you know, they'll protect themselves, certainly, you know, if you're doing something that's dangerous to their environment or survival. But I've seen a number of snakes, and it's not a great experience because I get very frightened. I don't like snakes. I was in Australia and ran into a couple very poisonous snakes. And you just, again, be aware and don't refrain from going somewhere just because you think you might run into something. You know, the chances are, I've been running on trails for, I don't know, 30 some years. I've seen 2 rattlesnakes. So, you know, certainly you can frequent them more depending on, you know, what part of the country you live on. You know, and there's warning signs periodically. There's snakes in the area. You know, stay to the trail and pay attention. I even look down and I'll see a stick and I think it's a snake. So I'll, you know, stop, or, you know, so just be alert and be aware. But I don't think the snake gaiters are all that necessary, quite frankly. You know, if you feel more comfortable, certainly wear, you know, be in what comfortable that you're on. I do know that somebody saw one once and it caused them to go off the trail, off, not a cliff, but certainly fell down, down the ledge of a trail once. And that wasn't such a good situation. But,
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to ask, and we talked about this in our last webinar, was shoe types. And we talked about the different types of trail running shoes and stuff, but there are some, you know, some road shoes that you can wear. I mean, what's your thought process as far as road shoes on a trail versus wearing trail shoes all the time? Do you have a specific direction you would tell people?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we do an annual survey with the American Trail Running Association, and all the results, you can search them on our trail news section of our website. You just type in survey and you'll see all these results. And the number one trail running shoe for people was Ultra, number two was Hoka, number three was Solomon. And those have held pretty solid over the last couple years. And having said that, there's a myriad trail running shoes out there. I've worn everything from, Hoka to Ultra, Saucony, Brooks, and everything in between. And I run on trails. A lot of people don't have the advantage that they walk out their door and they're on, 500 miles of trail, right? They have to get to a trail. So a shoe that's a good transition shoe, I think is good. Something that is good on the road and good on the trail. And there's a lot of those type of trail road kind of hybrid shoes out there. And I also think for women, a lot of women are lighter than men, and they can run with a road shoe a little easier than a guy can, because the impact is a lot more severe with a guy on a trail. So I think a lighter weight shoe sometime for women actually works pretty well. So it's kind of a soup to nuts for as far as footwear. And I think if you're going to be running on trails a lot, then you do need a good trail running shoe. And it also depends on your mobility. Like if you're really stiff in your ankles or you have certain issues, you need to get a shoe that addresses those concerns. So the best thing to do is to go to a specialty run shop and try on a bunch of different ones. And I think the best thing is to rotate your shoes and have a bunch of shoes in your quiver. Like I'm fortunate that I get a lot of free shoes, which is great. And so I rotate about 8 or 9 different pairs of shoes. Most people don't have that luxury. So I think if you get a couple good, get a shoe that you want to wear in your races that's a little lighter, you get a good trail shoe, a good road shoe, and kind of mix it up.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot, Nancy, these are great tips. And for you got a plethora of tips and other resources on your website, correct?
Oh yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's trailrunner.com. Is that?
Yep.
Perfect.
Pretty easy. Yeah.
Yep. It's super easy. So yeah, if anybody's got any other questions or things they want to know, trailrunner.com or through ATRA has a ton of resources, and it links through a number of different websites to get that information too. So they are a great partner to work with in the trail running community. And I really appreciate you being a partner with the Endurance Race Series for the last 4 years now. I think we're
at least, yeah.
Yeah. So, so thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it. So we're going to move right on to Mike Bone. And Mike is the owner of Spectrum Sports, which is the owner of Run Catalina events, and especially the Run Catalina Half Marathon, which is a partner event to the Endurance Race Series, Trail Running Series here in San Diego. So, Mike, welcome. Thanks for joining our Trail Tribe this week. And if you could go ahead and kind of explain, I'd love to hear kind of a background of how you got out to Catalina and how these races started first and foremost.
So those are a couple different stories, but I'll make it short. And first, let me just suck up a little bit and just say how great Nancy is and American Trail Running, because I think whether you're a race director, a sponsor, a product, or just a runner, you need to be a member of that organization. You need to know what's going on, and I can't count the number of people I referred over there to at least check it out. So
yep, same here.
Thanks, Mike.
And someday, Jeff, Run Catalina is going to have Nancy over on Catalina running.
Oh, all right.
It's a standing invitation that we're trying to twist our arm over. Yeah, so Jeff, let's see. I've worked on Catalina Island off and on since 1995. Starting actually at what pulled me over there was back in the mid 90s. I was doing a lot of triathlons, and we took over the Catalina Island Triathlon, which is still going on through some partners of ours at Renegade Racing. And over time, I got to know the people on the island that were managing the events, which was largely the Avalon Lions Club. So the Avalon Lions Club are using it as fundraisers. Hans Albrecht, I believe, actually started the Catalina Island Marathon 42 years ago.
Okay.
And the Catalina Island Marathon is the oldest trail marathon in California. And I think from what we've been able to tell, about the third oldest trail marathon in the country.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's truly one of the granddaddies out there, and very unique for a lot of different reasons. So I got started over there in 95, and in 2009, 2010, we took over management of the half marathon and the Catalina Island Marathon. And at the time, we also had an eco marathon that was in November that went through an entirely different part of the island, right through the middle of the island. It was just beautiful. But unfortunately, about 45 years ago, when we were going through the severe drought here in California, that part of the island was taking a beating. And in cooperation with the Conservancy, which owns the island, 86% of the island, we dropped the eco marathon. It needed some rest. That part of the island just needed some water and some rehabilitation, and to be left alone for a little while. So currently, the Run Catalina platform of events is in January. We have the Catalina, or the Avalon 50-mile benefit run, which benefits the Avalon Lions Club. 3 years ago, that had about 200 people in it, and I think 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, we added a 50K, and now we have about equal numbers in the 50-mile and 50K. So we'll get between 650 and 700 people that register for that event. And then in March, we have the Catalina Island Marathon, and in November, the Catalina Island Half Marathon, which is part of your series, which was a great experience last year with your runners that did come over, and I think took home all of our awards, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes, that's how we do it. So let's focus on the Catalina half, because that's kind of where we work together on our stuff. And so I kind of want to talk about the course over there, and what kind of, because I know the 10K course and the half course are two really different types of courses overall. So I'd like to hear how, I get a lot of questions, or at least a lot of the questions I got in the first year that we worked with you guys, was how technical some of those trails can be out there. And is it a lot of single track versus a little bit more of a wider open, like service road style, or kind of explain the difference in the trails?
Yeah, on all of our events, we're talking about the half marathon, but really on Catalina, they're all, for the most part, there is no single track. There was on the old eco marathon. It's been described, not by me, but by others, Andrea Kuhlman and other very successful trail runners, as on Catalina, the perfect venue for an introduction to trail running. Because like the discussion we just had, we get this call all the time. You can come over there and whatever shoes you're out running in right now today, you can wear on Catalina. There's not technical gear required. You can if you want to, and we certainly get a fair number of those people that want to come over with all the technical gear, but you don't need it. So it's on largely service roads, Conservancy roads. So the island of Catalina is owned 86% of the island is owned by the Catalina Island Conservancy. So they're our partners, and we don't do a lot of single track running because of the sensitivity of the island. And we don't need to, because we have these fantastic roads that are maintained. So anybody can come over and run, if that answers your question.
Yeah. And so what's the biggest thing you tell people is from a training perspective with Catalina?
Hills, and more hills.
Lots of hill repeats. Yeah.
It's the half marathon, the first 8 miles is uphill. Is it really uphill or a little uphill? but it's uphill. There's a false summit up there that gets a lot of people excited, thinking that they hit it, until they go down a little bit and then hit it again. But there's, figure that when you're in Catalina, you start in Avalon, which is at sea level. And the only way out of Avalon is up. So, you run up to about 1,500 feet or so, and then you kind of cruise from there a little bit. And then I think the total, it's escaping me right now. I know the marathon has a net elevation gain of just under 4,000 feet. So the half marathon's not that much, but then also, as you guys know, right, it's the downhill as well. I think that's what people forget a little bit is, we just tell people when you come over, kind of like Nancy said, bring your camera, you have your phone, you're just going to see gorgeous views. You're going to get to a part on the half marathon where you're going to see, you could turn backwards and where you just came from and see Long Beach, Dana Point in LA, and then you look out on the other side of the island and see San Nicolas, San Clemente Island. So, but you're not going there to set a PR.
Yeah, I can imagine. So so there was a question that was in the group chat before we even got started about, because that's the thing a lot of people either know or don't know about Catalina is the herd of buffalo that's out there. So
right.
Do you normally see on the trail and during the race, is there usually that visual of the buffalo herds out there?
So it's very, very uncommon to see them on the half marathon course. That's that side of the island. It's very common to see them on the 50 miler and marathon course. They're more towards the west end and the middle of the island. But yeah, we see them all the time.
And how do you know how many are kept out there at any given time?
It's around 250. I mean, there's rangers that monitor that, and they take them every once in a while when the herd grows so big, they'll take them off and actually send them back to South Dakota, which is where they tracked that they were originally from. So yeah, it's quite a process. They bring a shaman out to bless them, and it's quite a pretty cool process. But it's around 250 that they keep out there, and they're wild animals, right? I mean, we have to tell. Matter of fact, we had a young lady come in 2 years ago that wanted to take her picture with the buffalo, and she came in with her shorts torn and paper, safety pinned together because the buffalo didn't want to take a picture. They're real animals. So
yeah, I tell that to people that do our Snow Mountain Ranch race every year as well, and that race year in and year out up in the Winter Park area. We always run into moose, and it's really cool when you get a chance to see them, but you never want to get too close to them, especially if it's a mother that's got her kids next to her.
Right.
So we had 2 years ago, the lead half marathoners, the first and second place half marathoners were running around. I think they were getting up to they were right at mile 11 and a half, mile 12. And all of a sudden a moose runs right across the trail course and starts running side by side with the first place guy. And as he explains it to me, it was kind of one of those, he could feel himself veering further and further off the trail so that the moose wouldn't continue to get closer and closer. And finally, I think there must have been some kids, some moose children over there. And then the moose just kind of veered off in the other direction. But he said it was the scariest moment he's had for like that almost like 90 seconds to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Where he didn't know, like it could go either way. And it's like, do you stop? Do you not stop? Type of thing. Right. And so that's the only time that somebody's ever gotten that close to one of our moose, but we see moose out of our Snow Mountain Ranch event all the time. And it's great.
It's part, I mean, it might be the same for you, Jeff, but it's part of what they're looking for. That's part of what brings the athletes over is that,
Exactly.
You want to see a bald eagle, you want to see a Catalina Island fox, which is endemic only to Catalina, and you want to see the bison. And they're pretty cool when they're out there. And we work with the rangers, we do manage it. I mean, there's times we'll hear on the radio, hey, we got 2 bison standing right in the middle of the marathon course, and you got to get the rangers out there to, chase them away. But they're actually pretty cool, and they're pretty docile unless you rile them up or get between a cow and a calf.
So let's get back into it here. So because you and I are in the same thought process when it comes to our aid stations and the coupless racing and all of that stuff, especially being out there in Catalina. Um, give some of the runners here kind of an idea of what they can expect from the aid stations out there, and then really what you do with your aid stations from kind of keeping it sustainable to some degree.
Yeah, so we can't talk about that right now without talking about the current situation we're in and the unknown future going forward with aid stations. But 5 years ago, we decided to go cupless after coming out of one of the U.S. trail running conferences. And cupless was kind of new at the time, and we said, let's try it. And I actually talked to some of the older runners that have been with us. So, we have people that have run. We actually have 2 people that have run every single of the 42 Catalina marathons. So I said, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? And their reaction was, I thought you would have done this years ago. So we are a completely cupless race in the interior, and starting this year are going to go cupless with the 5 and 10K also. So you have to bring your own hydration system, vest, cup, bottle, whatever you have. If you don't have one, we have them to sell to you. And it's not, look, we're not making a lot of money on it. It's like $5, $6 for the little collapsible cups. We also have Nathan as one of our sponsors, and they've been very supportive of this. So that's the biggest change we've made. There you go. That's what Nancy has. So yeah, so the biggest change we've made is the cupless part. The other part of the aid stations at Catalina take on a little bit of the personality of their own. I mean, some of these guys and organizations have been running a certain aid station forever. So whether it's the high school group or the Lions Club or the Rotary Club, and you hit the Eagles Nest Bluegrass Station on the marathon, and they have bluegrass playing, and they're barbecuing bison burgers, and they have the full bar and the beer. And I don't know why somebody wants to do a shot at mile 18, but they do. So it's just
whatever gets you through, man.
No, part of the trail running part, but it's just a tremendous amount of fun. And then this year, I really was convicted at the last trail running conference and at Running USA this year about the being sustainable. So we had partnered. Now, I should say our Catalina Marathon was canceled 3 days before. So the governor's order came down on Wednesday night, is right before the Catalina Marathon. So we'll probably roll this over for the half marathon. But we're working with the Council for Responsible Sport to get that certified. And I'm fortunate that my son is a graduate in sustainability from University of Colorado Boulder, and is helping that process because some of that's kind of Greek to me, but it's important that we do this. And I think it's, frankly, it should be in trail running, right? I mean, trail running, it's the ethos of trail running. It's what trail running is about. You should be sustainable out there. You should be self-contained, frankly. And I don't know your reaction, Jeff. I think we've talked about it, but in the 5 years, I think I've had 3 emails, and I can remember each one of them, that said, you rotten people, if you're going to make me bring my own cup, I'm never doing your race again. It's like, well, good. Go do the LA Marathon.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've been lucky. We've kind of started that process last year with our races in Colorado, and did a couple of races in California or in San Diego here as a coupless races. And 2020 is scheduled to be 100% cupless. And so, for the races that we did have, I think we ended up with, out of all of our races, we ended up with 5 of them that were cupless. And we didn't have one person complain. It was, yeah, I think that's the beauty of the trail running community, right? Is those runners understand. And it's really the crossover runners that are coming in, maybe doing their first trail race from a road race, that really don't understand it. And well, why would, just like you said, well, why would I have to bring my own if you guys are setting up an aid station? So I think we're lucky enough that our community is really at the forefront of understanding that whole entire direction of becoming sustainable and trying to limit the amount of stuff that we're offering out there at the aid stations as far as cups and everything else. So I think
I think you're exactly right. And I think the hidden little secret for guys like you and I on the race directing side, and any other race directors on this call, is that once you make that commitment to going sustainable, it's actually easier, right? In a lot of ways. I mean, that's what I was finding as we prepared for Catalina, and what Matt was helping me with is it's less expensive. You need fewer volunteers. It's a little more work to separate, some of the trash and the sustainability, but I mean, oh my gosh, just the cleanup from not having to pick up cups all over. I mean, we used to have on every Catalina race, so you have your SAG following the last person. Then the next day we had another detail that came out just looking for cups and bottle caps and everything that have been thrown down on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So it's great. I mean, we're not going back. I mean, we're going more and more in that direction. Our partners at the Conservancy have a green certified building over there. It's a huge emphasis on Catalina, and we're just going to keep doing more and more in that direction.
Nice. Nancy, I'm going to have a question I'm going to come back to you in a second, Nance, but I want to finish out my conversation with Mike here really quick, because I want to get your take on the couplets and sustainability and stuff like that from the ATRA perspective. But Mike, I want to finish up. So one of the big things that people have to understand with the Catalina half marathon or even the full marathon is the travel out to that race.
Yeah.
So explain the differences. When I went out to the two times I've been out to the half marathon, once a few years ago before we had even really met, and then last year, I was lucky enough one time to be out there staying the night before, and then this last time I took the ferry over the morning of. So kind of give people a sense of what they should expect from the travel, from timelines to the ferries to what how hotels work with you guys as far as the race goes, if they do.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So Catalina Island's located 22 miles off of Long Beach, LA area. The best way to get there is on the Catalina Express. It's not the only way, but it's the best way. So the Catalina Express, depending if you're coming out of Dana Point or Long Beach, is approximately an hour and 15 minutes. For the Catalina half, where we worked with you guys, we position that race to start at 8 o'clock so that you have time to come in the morning on the 6 a.m. boat if you would like, instead of having to spend the night, because it's a burden, right? It's a resort town. But the rooms are not inexpensive generally. So the half marathon and 10K, and our 10K super popular over there also, you can come over and do it that morning. So you go to Long Beach, Dana Point, or San Pedro, or you can go to Dana Point also, and you come over. And once you dock at the mall, you're 400 yards from the start line, and that's the nice thing. And I could tell if somebody's not from California, because they'll call and say, do I put my car on a ferry, or do I get a taxi when I get and when I hear that, I know they're from Washington State or something like that, but yeah, and that's really great. I mean, there's lockers out there if you need them. Again, given our community, we kind of have an honor system bag drop area, which has never been a problem. So you can come over, get on the boat. It's part of the experience, frankly, of the whole day is on the boat. Come over, you have some time to walk around, stretch out, pick up your bib if you need to. And at the stage where our check-in is, the start line is less than 100 yards. So you just walk over and go, and you come back to the same finish line. So it's not as complicated as you think. Now you can, if you want to make a weekend out of it. And you were talking earlier, Jeff, about women in trail running. We've been thrilled that we're just over 50% women. Almost all of our not the 50 miler, but the half and the marathon, just over 50% women, which has been great to see, because women tend to travel in groups and they come over and they just have a lot more fun than the guys, it looks like. So they're coming over with their running groups and their workout groups and stuff, and so you see these big groups come over that also stay for the weekend and kind of make a whole weekend out of it. We have on our Run Catalina website that I put in the notes here, we have our host hotels that work with people. There's a variety. You can get some down and dirty, I just need a bed and a shower hotel, to these really expensive resorts. And we always welcome people to call us if they have any questions, because it's hard to tell from a Yelp review or hotels.com what you're getting into and what you're looking for. Another great way that's overlooked a lot is a home rental. And again, in this COVID-19 world, we got to see where that plays out here with the state. But people that are coming over with groups of 3 or 4 or families. When my boys were younger, we'd go over and rent a house, and that's a great way to go.
Oh. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Long Beach is actually the only port that actually leaves early enough in the morning.
I think you're right. Yeah, the San Pedro and Dana Point take, but you have to come over the day before.
Yeah, because I don't think their first boat leaves until like 9 a.m.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Whereas the Long Beach will leave at 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is.
Yeah,
But
I think it's a 6 or 6:15, and then you get to the island an hour 15 later.
perfect. Well, thanks a lot, Mike, for being with us. And as I said before, the Catalina Half Marathon is part of the Sunshine Series here for our San Diego races. So if you purchase a season pass, then that race comes with that as well. So Colleen had one more question, Mike. She said, how far in advance should everything be booked? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, we're not in the big seasons. So, but I would say for November, I would be looking to book it midsummer. And right now they just put in an appeal with the state, given that it's a tourist economy, to fast track to stage 3 opening, which would allow the hotels, the leisure and vacation hotels, to open. So just keep your eyes on that. I think they expect an answer early next week.
Got it. Well, again, thank you. Runcatalina.com is all the information there. You can also find links on the Endurance Race Series website. And Sean, really quick before I get to you, I do have one more quick question for Nancy, and I want to go back to the Trail Runners Association and your thought process on where you're seeing some of those race partners that you've got with the cupless and the sustainable aspect of it. I'd like to kind of get your take on it.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, we also did a survey last year on trail work. And we found out that, I mean, this is part and parcel to the sustainability piece as well. A lot of times as trail runners, we think, well, we don't do any damage. What do we need to do for the trails? We use them and we don't need to do much for them. So, the mountain bikers have always been those that have really banded together to really work on the trails. And we found through this survey that a huge percentage, over 50%, never worked or did anything on a trail for maintenance ever. And there were obstacles, time and commitments, but also they didn't know where to go. So one thing that's really easy for trail runners to do to pitch in is to start plogging. Carry a bag with you when you go out onto the trails on your runs, and wear at least one glove, so you're not so weirded out about picking up trash. But that's one way to really help within the trail community and make a little bit of a difference. But to the point of sustainability and using recyclable or TerraCycling, GU has a terrific program with TerraCycle. And that's something you can save your GU wrappers and all these other kind of wrappers, and then send them back for free, and they'll TerraCycle them. The other thing that's really important is upcycling. So before you even get to an event, as a race director, you can unpackage a lot of things that come, so that at your event you don't have all this trash. And I think a lot of times you want to get to that zero waste. And I think, Mike mentioned it a little bit with the Council for Responsible Sport. There's also Athletes for a Fit Planet, and Mike's son is also doing a project as well and has a website that maybe, Mike, you could type your son's website in there too. But all these factors together are really important, and we have to work together as a community. But I think the cupless is fantastic. And there's just little things you can do. It's hard if you have a list of 20 things. I'm going to implement all those, right? Even as a runner. If you can take one or two, just take baby steps. You're not going to run up a mountain the first time you put on a pair of trail running shoes. So it's the same thing with any kind of work or sustainability you're doing with trails.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot, Nancy. I really appreciate the insight on that. So I've been, I missed out on the trail running conference this year, so I didn't get a chance to listen to all of the talks about that. So it's kind of nice to hear that from your perspective. So, all right, we're going to move on to Sean Lake with Bubs Naturals. So Sean, thank you for being out here. So the backstory of Bubs is amazing, and I love it, and I want you to go ahead and share that with everybody, and kind of because you also donate part of your proceeds back to charity as well. So, and I know that all ties into the backstory of the company. So before we even get started with, collagen protein and everything else, please give everybody just kind of a backstory of how Bubs came about.
Yeah, we'll do. And first off, we keep circling back to Nancy, and there's a reason for that. I did a little side Googling. If you guys ever saw my eyes shifting over here, it's because I went into the website for AFTRA, went into the Ultra sign up, and it was super easy to join. So I'm now a member. I was not a member before, but as of about 30 seconds ago. So over to Bubs. I've known Jeff Stoner for about 9 years now. And we met through,
oh my God.
Yeah, man, I did some math. And we met through this sport called CrossFit, and Jeff and I both dabbled in CrossFit, and we've always sprinkled in running. I've been a runner my whole life, and I found that from a time management side, CrossFit was great. Well, the guy that introduced me to CrossFit was my oldest friend from high school, a guy named Glenn Bub Doherty. We went to high school together in Massachusetts. We moved to the mountains of Utah together. And we were in our mid-20s, a couple of ski bums in Utah, and we both decided, boy, we can't do this forever. All of our friends have gone to college. They've all got degrees and families. What's next for us? And I said, well, I'm going to go back to college. I've got my career path. And Glenn said, I'm going to join the Navy and become a Navy SEAL. And this is not a very common career path, but Glenn's was a very determined individual, and he went and did that. And he served in the U.S. Navy for 10 years. So my ski bum buddy from high school went on to this decorated career in the Navy. As a result, Jeff, myself, we've all come to know a handful of Navy SEALs who used to work with Glenn. And when Glenn got out of the Navy, he was stationed in Encinitas, and so we were around each other. He was in Coronado, I was in Encinitas, and we all worked out together and kind of reconnected through CrossFit. Well, Glenn was a contractor in the CIA and was unfortunately killed in Benghazi, Libya. So some of you might remember the terrorist attacks that killed the U.S. ambassador. The Benghazi attacks had a movie called 13 Hours that came out, and unfortunately, Glenn was one of the people killed there. So when Glenn was killed, of course, he was a member of the gym that Jeff and I went to, and I was the executor of Glenn's estate. So I was in charge of his legacy and his memory, and we started a foundation initially to help spark Glenn's memory. And that foundation was designed to help special operators and their families transition out of the military to civilian life, primarily through scholarship. Jeff has been an amazing partner to help facilitate some fundraising initiatives. Every year we do a big workout and a barbecue, and Jeff would really rally the cause to raise money for the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. And I'm thinking, this is my roommate, this is my best friend since I was 14 years old, and here we are trying to do good in his name. Well, in 2017, it'd been almost 5 years since the Benghazi terrorist attacks, and we're all still going through the same motions, but the foundation had kind of plateaued. There wasn't the interest, there wasn't a major Hollywood movie, no more congressional hearings. And we were just kind of left with this idea of what else could we do for fundraising? Around that same time, my wife introduced me to collagen protein. My wife's a little bit younger than I am, and she said famously, Sean, you're not getting any younger. So you're going to start taking this stuff. And I didn't know what it was. She bought a jar off of Amazon, and I just looked at it and it said hair, skin, and nails. I said, I don't care about any of that. But then it got interesting for me. There was a line below that said joint health, muscle recovery, and gut health. And I was like, well, those are three things I'm really keen on. Now, at the time, I was 45 years old. I think I've already mentioned I run a fair bit. I've been doing a lot of CrossFit, outdoor, mountain biking, surfing, you name it. Despite my background here, I'm not actually on the beach right now. But what was important is that I saw those perks. And I said, well, I'm curious about that. So I did exactly what my wife said. I took the collagen every day for 30 days straight. And I noticed something I've never noticed with glucosamine, creatine, whey protein, hydration formulas, you name the supplement. I've never really noticed a long-term effect on my body, but I did with collagen. I noticed in 30 days that my fingernails were growing like crazy, which as a guy, you really notice because you don't want to have to find the nail clippers. And my hair was growing, and not that I have a hell of a lot of it, but I like what I've got, and it was growing longer. So I said, boy, here are 2 data points of this product that work. Well, about 6 weeks into it, again, daily use, my knees stopped hurting. And that was it. I was in for life. I had a very distinct moment. We'd been running for a week straight. We did like literally 7 days straight, 5-6 mile runs. I hadn't done that kind of volume in a long time, and I felt great. So I said, that's it. I'm a customer for life. I'm in. And the spark for Bubs Naturals was when I shared the story of how I felt from taking this very simple product, collagen, and I shared it with my future business partner. And he said, well, let's start a company. We made a joke about it. And we both said, well, let's do something cool for charity. That has to be the baseline of what we do. And then the spark for Bubs was born from that. I said, well, this is just the kind of thing Glenn would have taken. Glenn, and I both had a lot of wear and tear on our bodies, and we'll give 10% of everything we do to Glenn's charity. And it was a bit of a social experiment. So feel great with a great quality product, do good. You're always going to help someone else in the process. And I mean, heck, Jeff, you were there from day one. You saw the first tubs come off the line.
Yeah, I know. It's been a hell of a ride for you guys for sure.
It's been a wild couple of years. Yeah.
So for people that don't know what collagen protein is, could you kind of give a little bit of a lesson on the collagen and then kind of separate it out from whey protein as well? Because whey is obviously the big protein that a lot of people are used to and know. So and I've seen over the last few weeks, and this is why I wanted to get you on here, is because I've as I'm going through our social media accounts and through some of our other running group social media accounts, I noticed one of the key things is people are starting to talk about proteins and collagen and what is collagen, how would it work for me and everything else. So I felt it would be a great opportunity to get on here and give some backstory of actually what the difference between collagen and whey is.
Yeah, no problem. That's it's actually remarkably simple. Collagen is the most abundant protein in all of our bodies. So everyone on here, if you think about the protein count in your body, the most abundant one is collagen. Why is that? Well, collagen is a binding protein. It's effectively like the glue that holds all of us together. So think of all of your connective tissue and how much of your body is made up of that. All of your skin, your hair, your nails, your bones, your muscle, and of course in your intestines and your joints. So those are all connective tissues that have this protein in them. The difference between collagen as a protein that is naturally found in the body over time compared to say whey protein is collagen's already naturally in your body, and you lose collagen year over year after you turn between 20 and 25. So if you're 20 years old, I will not sell you collagen. I promise you, you don't need it. You're pumping out plenty of it in your body naturally. Turn 25, all of a sudden little signs of wear and tear start to happen. 30, 35, 40, 49, it really starts to affect you. And supplementing with collagen is a nice way to offset the depletion that is naturally occurring in your body. Whey protein is dairy derived. It is considered a complete protein, meaning it has all of your essential amino acids plus tryptophan, whereas collagen, because it is a binding protein, lacks the amino acid tryptophan. So don't think if you take collagen, you're going to get huge. It's not your muscle build. It's your muscle recovery. It's your joint health. Whereas with a whey protein or a solid plant protein like a pea protein or a brown rice, doesn't have to be whey. you're getting a more complete protein. Well, that's great for your muscle build, but it's not going to do the same things for your joint health. And it's not going to do the same things for that recovery, your gut health, your bone density, those other connective tissue benefits. So I like to think, hey, if you're into whey protein and you want to get big, awesome. Collagen is a great complement to that because it's going to still help with your recovery and it's going to do great things for your joint health. And we're all in running. We know what the impact is on our bodies. We know the wear and tear that we experience, and you want to mitigate that as much as possible. And of course, the cosmetic benefits on tighter skin, fuller hair, stronger nails are great also. As someone who likes to live a life outdoors, I don't care about that, but it's a neat perk to have too. And then of course, what is collagen? Collagen is derived primarily from bovine hide. So I'm sorry to any of the vegans out there, but you should have full disclosure going into this one. It's an upcycled portion of the cow hide. So that connective tissue of the cow has all these amazing amino acids in it. Up until about 5-6 years ago, that was thrown away in the meat process. Now it's being upcycled into collagen. And our goal at Bubs was to make the most unflavored and highest solubility collagen that we could get on the market.
Wow. So let's bring this into the running community. So I know, like, I actually cook with Bubs, right? So I make a lot of my dinners with it. I just put a little teaspoon in it, or tablespoon, or just just a little bit, even whatever I'm making, just to kind of help out. But so what's the best way for like a runner to get in, to really get into it? Is it from a drinking it perspective? Is it a food type of thing that you would suggest? And then also to that same regard is, how would a runner use it in the recovery process?
No problem. So, and there's going to be a question over in the chat, so I want to get to in a second. So the key with collagen is the routine. You can't take it once and get the effects from it. So you could take away protein once and it'll offer a little bit of recovery benefits. With collagen, you have to build it up over time. So when I said I listened to my wife and I took it every single day for 30 days and then again for the next month, that build up over time allowed me to see that reaction in recovery and that reaction in joint health. So how I took it is, of course, personal to anyone out there. It's the heat tolerant protein. So you can cook with it, which is great for you. So, hey, if you're an oatmeal person in the morning and that's your go-to, throw it right in the oatmeal as you're cooking it. Throw your 2 scoops in there, which is 20 grams. You don't taste it, and it goes right into your daily routine. I'm a coffee drinker, so I put it in my coffee every morning, and I like my fancy cups of coffee and my drip press and all that good stuff. And I enjoy my coffee, and this doesn't ruin my coffee. It complements it. So I'm a huge fan from that standpoint. Well, if you don't drink coffee and say you don't eat oatmeal, maybe you make smoothies. Great. Smoothies you can't go wrong with a smoothie. All right, well, now we're hitting all your kind of breakfast areas or your evening routine. Maybe you make tea at night, or maybe you just drink water. I mean, everyone drinks water. As long as the water is not ice cold, it'll go right into water. So whatever your daily routine is, you can fit collagen into it, just like you fit a multivitamin in, just like you fit brushing your teeth in the morning. It's just a matter of your individual habits. I'm coffee, so I take it first thing in the morning, start my day with it. When it comes to your recovery, and this is really important, because of the amino profile, and we're talking about proline and lysine, they're 2 amino acids anyone can kind of Google and do a little bit of research on. They aid in recovery because they work on your connective tissue. Think your tendons and ligaments, and just adding some reinforcement there. So these essential amino acids, because their content is so high in collagen, they're going to really aid in that recovery process. So run a big run one day, you're going to feel a little bit better the next day. Again, it's not the first day. You have to build it up over time. But that is super key. So yes, on the inflammation side, primarily because you're going to be using there's also a lot of glycine in there, another essential amino acid that produces synovial fluid, helps with joint lubrication, joint mobility. So it's really going to help that cushioning, and it's going to help your flexibility. It's going to help with your mobility. All of these things, amino acids, all complement each other to create that kind of overall recovery. But independent of your activity levels, it's a daily supplement. It's just like you would take a vitamin. You don't want to skip a day. It's just something you build into your routine. And then after that 2-month period, if you don't feel anything, one, I'd be shocked. Two, you're inhuman. I love it. I'm jealous.
Because I know you guys, there's no, with whey proteins, you get a bunch of different flavors and stuff. The Bubs is a straight, no flavor collagen protein, correct?
Yeah, that was super important to us. I didn't want to go to market and say, hey, you eat oatmeal, you drink coffee, you like to make a pot of rice and put a cherry flavor or a different flavor on, out there. That's going to really segment how people can take the protein. But if it's a truly unflavored product, you can work it in however you like to. You've got those options. And that was important to us. We wanted a really unflavored, highly soluble product that could just drop into your tea, your water, your smoothie, your oatmeal, like I said, any of those examples.
Nice. Now, you guys also have, you're not only just the protein powder, you've also got MCT oils, correct? And what are some of, like, as far as training and recovery with the MCT oils, how does that factor in as well?
Yeah, so where collagen can help with things like inflammation and your recovery and your joint health, the MCT is going to kick off on the energy side. So think healthy fats. Our MCT oil, that's coconut oil. So this little tree behind me, the coconuts from that are then turned into medium chain triglycerides, the MCTs. We take that MCT oil, spray it into tapioca starch. Tapioca starch is this really sad little benign root vegetable with almost no nutritional value, yet it's a great sponge, and it allows that little hint of coconut to drive through from a flavor perspective, and it's a great non-dairy creamer. So again, coffee drinker, and I'm looking for extra energy, not caffeine spike energy. I want energy over time. And that's really where MCT comes in. It's a healthy fat energy source. It's going to drive over time. And it's great for mental focus. So crisp, clarity, energy. So think of the protein over here on the recovery side, feeding your body. And then you've got this energy source that's going to help get you out doing the job. So if you've ever heard of a bulletproof coffee or like those high fat coffees, effectively, we call it the Bubs brew. It's a bit of the collagen and the MCT together, and you've got your protein source and that great energy source.
Now, would you recommend, let's say we're getting ready for a race, would you recommend somebody taking the MCT pre-race, right? And if so, like how far in advance would you suggest that? And then once you're done with the race and you're getting ready, you want some of that recovery and to help out with some of that inflammation, what's the timeline of getting some of the protein in?
No problem. So if you've never taken MCT before, the day of your race is not your day to start. I recommend that everyone onboard anything new dietarily, and I'm not talking about our products, I mean in life, and you test it in kind of an environment where you know you're going to be okay. Like, hey, I'm going to try this new thing called MCT. Well, try it when you don't have anything to do that day, so that if you do have an adverse reaction, an upset stomach is one of the most common side effects for about 3, maybe 2% of people that take MCT. There's a fine line of how much you should take. If you've already onboarded MCT into your life and you have a good reaction to it, send it right before the race, up to 30 minutes prior. If you drink coffee beforehand or a smoothie, whatever your morning nutrition is prior to the race, you really can't go wrong. If you're not used to it, don't touch it. When it comes to collagen, similar to what I said before, it's really about taking it during the day, not when during the day. So if you have collagen in your daily routine, then the morning of the race, you could take it before, or you could just wait and take it afterwards. You could take it at night before you go to bed. The fact is, the collagen you've been taking for the months prior is already going to be in your system doing its job. I like it first thing in the morning. So before I do a race, before I go on a run, I load up on MCT and collagen so that I've got that protein source in my belly, and I've got the healthy fat energy that's going to drive me, to find that extra gear, hopefully.
Nice. Now, Sean, tell people where they can buy your product, because you can get it on your website, but can you get it in any stores locally, or is it just like online for you guys right now?
Yeah. So locally, if anyone's in San Diego, Barron's Markets and Cardiff Seaside Market are our two biggest areas in the local San Diego area, and also down at Paleo Treats if you head down to Normal Heights. Online, Amazon. We're an Amazon Prime brand, and we're Amazon's choice, which is really neat. So we get that kind of Amazonian validation. And then, of course, our website, bubsnaturals.com. And also, actually, go over to the feed. Everyone here is a runner, so you're doubtless familiar with the feed.com, which is a big endurance athlete nutrition supplement site. So we have a partnership with them, and they do their own deep dive on why Bubs collagen and why it works for them, which is really nice because they're runners and they're part of the tribe.
Nice. Well, this reminds me, I need to get some more, so I'll be hitting you up here afterwards.
You know where to find me, man. I got you covered.
Well, that's all I got for today. I really appreciate. One more question from Nancy. How many calories, Sean, are we looking at as far as?
Good question. Wait, I'm going to answer that with the internet, because if I answer wrong based on 2 scoops, I'm going to feel like a dumb guy. So give me one quick second. And by the way, anyone who's a part of this group, I'm sure we're all going to follow up later. Let's all share emails and stuff, because if I can help support or share information in any way, count me in. But as far as the collagen goes, wait for it. 20 grams equals, don't be slow on me, internet. This is a drag. I know we have a very low calorie count, so that's why I don't want to say 0 and be wrong. 70 total calories per 20 grams.
Wow.
A little higher than 0.
Just a bit, but not a lot though. That's what's crazy.
No, 70 calories for 20 grams of protein is, and of course, 0 sugar, corn-free, gluten-free, non-GMO. And I should actually say we're the only brand that is 100% NSF for sport certified. So we actually work with a bunch of teams in Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL hockey. We actually are certified to work with the U.S. Olympic team. So we independently test everything that we do, just so we can afford the chance to work with athletes at the highest level.
Nice. Last question, would you suggest you take the same, because you take it in your coffee every single day?
I do.
Right? So do you do the same dose, the same tablespoon, or whatever it is?
I used to just do 2 scoops a day every day. And then I spoke with a protein specialist, actually, an MD named Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. And she looked at me and she said, well, why don't you take 30 or 40 grams a day? And I said, well, I don't know. I read my own jar. And she actually made the recommendation based on activity levels. She said, well, boy, you're running a bunch. Right now, I'm just ramping up, hopefully, to run the New York Marathon this year. And she said, you should really be doing 30 grams and scale up to 40. So I would say 20 is a great baseline. And then if your activity dictates it, you're not going to go wrong. It's not like a vitamin where you hit a max threshold and then you're doing your body a disservice. You can scale up on collagen, which is nice. And it's independent to every person. I would pull in a nutritionist to specify that for an individual. But as a matter of course, I'm up to 40 grams a day. But I'm also training up for to really beat the hell out of myself this year.
Is a dose, is it like per weight in the is like with weight, does it matter what the dose is? I guess that's, if Nancy versus me, right? That's
right. Nancy might be able to get away with as little as 10 grams, which is 1 scoop. So we put a scoop in every tub and every bag, 1 scoop to start. If you notice the effects and you can really feel that change, great. But again, if I can go at 190 pounds up to 40 grams a day and have it be, just as effective, Nancy might be great at 20. You might be great at 20 as well. And it's really a baseline. So the baseline is designed for all weights, ages. 20 grams is kind of that, hey, you know you're going to get the effective dose based on that.
Very cool. Well, that's all I've got. I don't see any other questions come through. Sorry, I'm just reading something from Rachel here. Shauna Jeff, having just separated from the Navy this year, I can't say thank you enough for what you and doing with Glenn's memory and support others. So thanks a lot, Rachel. We appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody for joining our Trail Tribe today. And we'll be making an announcement here over the next week or so on our next Trail Tribe meeting. And thank you again to Nancy, to Mike, and to Sean for being here, and for all those that joined us today. And for anybody who is here and you don't know that they forgot about it or whatever it is, we will be posting this on our website. It'll be up there probably on Monday morning at the latest. But you can see all of our Trail Tribe videos on the website there. So thank you again, guys. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.